Did you pre-order Cyberpunk 2077? Well, in that case, then you can already preload it, but in today's video, we're going to be talking about something more interesting, which is, can your PC run Cyberpunk 2077? I've, of course, already done a video where I showed the minimum requirements for the game, so I would assume that by now you already know that, but a lot of lucky people, and by that I mean reviewers and some people that managed to get early copies, whatever, they have already had some time with the game and they published their reviews today, and we're going to go through some of them, and more specifically, we're going to go through an article from Tom's Hardware where we have seen some benchmarks being run for Cyberpunk 2077 so that you can get an idea of how well this game is actually going to run on your PC and on your very own hardware. So, question of the day, can your PC run Cyberpunk 2077? That's exactly what we're going to be talking about today, and I think it's time to go to the PC because it's going to be a lot easier to do that. And don't forget that on December 10th, I'm going to start publishing my own benchmarks for this game once it finally releases. I think all of us are expecting to play this game, and do make sure to click that subscribe button if you don't want to miss my coverage of the game. So let's go to the PC right now. Okay, so here we are at the PC, and of course we have this brilliant image over here, but we're going to have to look at the Tom's Hardware article, and you're going to find links to that in the video description as well. And just to give you a little bit of insight, what they have done right here, they have run Cyberpunk 2077 at a bunch of different settings, including medium settings, if you were interested in that. They have run these tests with different graphics cards, so they've done, I believe, 1060 was the lowest level that they've done. They've done this with an i9 9900K and with an false i7 7700K, which I would expect that they have just turned some of the clocks off and lowered the frequency. And they have also run some tests with ray tracing and DLSS turned on. Now this is just a chart and where you can see that they have for the RTX 3060 Ti, Cyberpunk 2077 at 1080p Ultra, the frame rates, okay, the frames per second in this case, not all that shabby, but just to give you an idea of how they tested this game, because this game does not have a built-in benchmark, what they have done, they have basically went through Night City and tried to go both outside and inside, and of course you're going to see that whenever they have run those tests inside, they have managed to get an FPS boost. This kind of happens in pretty much all games in different scenarios. However, speaking of different scenarios, you're going to see that given that this game does not have a built-in benchmarks, they were left out to just test it on an open street, basically going back and forth. And given that the game also procedurally generates characters and you're going to have different environments, different climates, night and day cycles, and whatnot, then of course you're going to get a little bit of variance. So I think they noted something around 3%, if I remember correctly. So pretty consistent with about plus minus 20%. Okay, I think I remember seeing something with 3%, but you know, your mileage might vary, of course, whenever you're going to play this game. And of course, you're going to get different results whenever this game is going to launch on the 10th of December, because as far as I know, they already have a day one patch planned. And honestly, it's good that it's coming out, but it's also going to be 40 to 50 gigabytes. If I remember correctly, it's going to be 43. Now you have already gotten a sneak peek at this. So the Cyberpunk 2077 performance medium presets. Like I was saying, they did quite a few tests at medium, and the graphics cards that I have in here, 6800 XT all the way to the 1060. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find any RTX 3070 benchmarks from Tom's Hardware. If I'm going to find any of them, do make sure you're going to find them either in the comment section down below or in the description. Both are going to be below in this case. So you can see that you're going to be awfully benchmarked, or not awfully, but still quite a lot. You're going to be quite definitely bottlenecked by a 7700K with an RTX 3090, but of course you already knew that. Just looking straight at the results, you can see that at 1080p, which, all surprisingly, is the resolution at which most people run their games at, according to the Steam hardware survey at least, you're getting some decent performance out of it. But of course, this is medium settings. Do you want to play this game at medium settings? I don't know. You're going to have to decide that on your own. Personally, with an RTX 3070, I really expect to play this game at ultra settings like they said, but we're going to see how that is going to go for me. So just those are not all that. So I would say that in this case, you're limited by the CPU, because you can see there's not a major difference between the 3060 Ti, 3080, and 3090. So congrats if you didn't buy an RTX 3070, 3080, 3090, and you're going to run this game at 1920 at 1080p medium settings. Yeah, it seems great, doesn't it? And assuming you don't have a 7700K, which is going to bottleneck your GPU in this case. So let's look at what they're saying here. Yeah, of course, bottleneck at 105 FPS. I also hope that we're not going to go into any engine limitations, because that wouldn't be great either. So if you're looking for 60 FPS, Tom's Hardware says that you can use an RX 5600 XT and an RTX 2060. That's decent. Those cards are now cheap, especially on the secondhand market. I think you can find them for, what would they go for? Like about $200 or euros if you're around here in Germany. Now let's look at the other results at 1440p, because a lot of people are interested in running this game at 1440p. And you can see that once again, if you have a beefy RTX 3080, you're going to have a good experience at medium settings in this case. But if you're running an RTX 3060 and let's say a Ryzen 3600K, which I would expect to be really good, or an i7 8700K, which I'm running in my PC, you're going to get really good performance. You can see 73 FPS and a minimum of 60 FPS. It's not going to dip below that unless you consider that 0.1% to be a huge difference, and you're going to definitely notice it. No, you're not. What are the things? So with a 1060, don't expect to run this, but I don't think anyone was thinking at running that. Let's see, with 1080p, 30 to 37 FPS, not bad. I think you're going to enjoy it, but more like on consoles. But hey, you're going to be able to play this game. And of course, don't worry, there are going to be optimizations for day one. I would really be surprised if they haven't optimized the game during this time. So at 4K, you're going to need, at least if you want to play this at 60 FPS, you're going to need an RTX 3080. Otherwise, if you're fine with 30 FPS, so the console experience, you're going to be able to do that with an RTX 3060 Ti. And of course, the higher you go in resolution, the more important is your GPU in this case, and no longer your CPU. Okay, going on to Ultra preset, because that's what most of us are interested in, I would expect. You can see that at 1080p, you would need, let's look really quickly at this. So Ray Tracing Ultra? Yeah, I think this is what this means. So with an RTX 3080, with Ray Tracing turned on and 1080p Ultra, not too shabby. You're not going over 60 FPS, but I would say that if you're fine playing this game at 40 to 50 FPS, and a lot of games, believe it or not, are really fine to run at this level, so between 40, 50, and 60 FPS, really good. The RTX 2060 is also not doing a bad job, but of course you're not including ray tracing into the scenarios. And by the way, guys, I'm going a little bit quickly through those things, trying to not go overboard with this video. But if you want to look at any of those results, feel free to pause the video and go through them yourself. Now let's look at a preview with DLSS, and they have done quite a few of those. And you can see that, so with an RTX 3060 Ti, which I expect most people to try to get their hands on this holiday season, because availability has been a little bit better for the RTX 3060 Ti and the RTX 3070, not so much for the 3080 and 3090, but they're also coming back. So you can see that you're actually getting very close to 60 FPS if you're turning on ray tracing to ultra and DLSS quality. Of course, you're going to have the option to use DLSS balanced as well. So let's see how that is going to influence your performance. What did Tom's Hardware say? So the 1080p results with and without DLSS enabled using varying modes of DLSS still came just short of 60 FPS. Yeah, like we were expecting. The CPU appears to be an even bigger limiting factor with the faux, because they didn't use an actual 17700K, falling behind. Well, if you have an older processor, then this game is definitely not going to give you the best experience. And I think they were recommending you have a 2600K, which is a bit surprising because the 7700K is definitely better than a 2600K. But again, I'm not expecting this game to run on an actual potato like they tried telling us that it would with a GTX 780. Come on, guys. Not now, at least. Not in the game's current state. Either way, going to 1440p Ultra, which a lot of you I would also expect to be interested in. I would like to tell you that the RTX 3060 Ti is still doing a really good job, and even you have an AMD card, despite despite the initial, madness that has been going around, seeing that you're not going to get the best experience on AMD cards. Well, this totally looks like it does. Even like it's very close to the RTX 3080, so definitely not bad. A few, yeah, a few FPS difference over there, but considering that this is an NVIDIA title, not bad. Now let's look at this with DLSS, and this is where I would actually expect RTX cards to fare a little bit better. And looking at this, it seems like it does. So this is with DLSS performance. Where is AMD in this case? Oh, no AMD because you don't have DLSS in this case. Oops. Let's see, RTX 3090 with a faux 7700K. Not all that great, but still playable. But including DLSS, I don't know. Are you going to be able, or are you going to want to do that? Most certainly not. So what would be the sweet spot over here? I would also say that still the sweet spot would be the 3060 Ti and an RTX 3070. So congrats on that CDPR. Let's see. So Tom's Hardware is also mentioning that with a planned day 0 or day 1 patch, whatever you want to call it, things will still improve. And also wouldn't expect 10 to 15% more in terms of performance boost. Depends. I would also say that 10 is a bit more appropriate, but maybe they're going to do some kind of magic. I kind of doubt it, but okay. So if you're going to run this at 4K, then this is not looking all that great for AMD cards in this case. I don't think a lot of people are going to be running this game at 4K unless they have an RTX 3090 and they're going to be turning on DLSS. Okay, speaking of the devil in this case, we can see that at 4K with an RTX 3090, you're of course getting a really good performance. Oh, but with an RTX 2060, this is also really good with medium rasterized performance and DLSS performance. Okay, really good. And this is 4K? Not bad. I take my words back. I was saying that perhaps not a lot of people are going to be able to run this game at 4K ultra settings unless they can make use of DLSS. Well, there you go. Did I point it? Yeah. There you go. It's over there. You know what I meant. It's over there. You can see the RTX 2060. Well, this is definitely going to make a lot of people happy. Let's see. Okay, so they've also done the image comparison, and I think at this point I'm going to have to make this a little bit smaller so that you guys can see. Oh, where did it shift? Not that great. I envisioned these going a little bit different. Oh, I think I can do this. Okay, so you can see that this is how the game looks at Ultra Preset. And I would also recommend you go read the article and look at the images yourself, because YouTube is going to do a lot of compression and it's not going to look all that great. But looking at this, it's good. So Ray Tracing Ultra, okay. This. Compared, okay, this looks a lot better. I'm not going to do a deep dive. I'm not able to do this like other YouTube channels would do. So Digital Foundry would be the golden standard. I'm not going to do that. Now, Ray Tracing Ultra with DLSS balanced also doesn't look all that bad. I think this is going to be the sweet spot that most of the people are going to try to go after. Okay. So I'm just going to skip through most of them. I think the next one is going to be with ray tracing turned on. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting just because of the fact it has ray tracing, but I wouldn't call this necessarily particularly pleasing. I don't know. Maybe it's just the screenshot because the terrain over there doesn't look all that great. Trying to spot some differences, but trying to do this also in a really rush manner is not my forte in this case. So you can see Ray Tracing Ultra with DLSS quality, and this one was DLSS balanced. I can't really tell much of a difference. I think that's only in the writing over there I was trying to see. I think I prefer balanced instead of quality for whatever reason. This looks a little bit jagged. but I think I'm going to have to see that on my very own monitor, because most of the time whenever I look at YouTube videos or those kinds of pictures, I'm like, this doesn't look all that great. And then when I'm playing it myself, I'm like, yeah, this is good. And of course, remember that whenever you're going to be immersed into the game, you're not going to think all that much about quality, or at least I don't. So let's just run through all of them. If you're going really fast through those, you're going to... Ooh, that looked good. With no deal. Oh, this is Ray Tracing Ultra. Yeah, okay, that's... yeah, so if you're looking through some of those, and whenever you're going to play the game and you're going to be packed with action and everything is going to go really fast, I don't think most of us are going to pay attention to... we're not going to be pixel peeping at those things. Let's see what else they have over here. So of course there are other oddities with reflections. Yeah, I would have expected this, and they're going to have to polish this game. Haha, they're actually from Poland as well. Polish people polishing things. Or enter photo mode. Oh, photo mode is going to be very interesting for this game as well. I've already done a video on that, and of course already have a lot of videos on Cyberpunk 2077. Believe me, I'm very excited for this game, and I really hope that is going to do well. So if you want to, make sure to check out the other videos on my channel as well. They're going to be tagged with Cyberpunk 2077. So this is their whole review, and I'm not going to spoil it for you. Of course, if you guys want to read it, then you can definitely go to it. I wanted to say that I've also watched the review from IGN, and I also had the time to go through Twitter and see what other people have said about. Let me actually make this a little bit better. Well, bigger in this case. Nice lighting that I have around me. So I looked at some people, and they seemed a little bit disappointed with what Cyberpunk, with what CDPR has done in terms of releasing this game to only PC players. So they haven't sent out copies to console players, and of course we still have no clue how well this is going to run on the old consoles, so the old Xbox consoles. We have no clue how it's going to run on the PS4 and so on and so forth, but looking at those things, I would generally expect them to be locked at a solid 30 FPS, with the exception being perhaps the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, but even the PlayStation 5 might not be running at 60 FPS, but of course you're going to see more reviews on that on the day of the launch, and unsurprisingly, well, or surprisingly should I say, it really depends how you're looking at this, because Cyberpunk CDPR did say that they're not allowing people to share footage of the game before the actual launch date, and in some countries it's actually the 9th of December. That's neither here nor there. And of course they also didn't allow reviewers to showcase the game in this case, so they were locked to the same footage that we have already seen for this game. And sorry, this is not necessarily the way you should be doing it. I still want to believe that Cyberpunk is going to be an amazing game, and I appreciate CDPR as much as the next guy, I would say. And of course I loved The Witcher. I think I don't have... Yeah, give me 1 second. Going out of frame. So this is a game... You can barely see it, but either way, you can see that this is a game that I bought. I really loved Gwent. I loved everything that CDPR has put out so far, but I would expected them to try to do better by the game reviewers and the whole gaming community as well. And I do feel that despite the game being already rushed 3 or 4 times, it still feels a little bit rushed at this point. And I do think that, investors and all the other companies that they're working with, remember that they've released an RTX 2080 Ti special edition. Now they're doing an RTX 3080, because that one, of course, is out of date by the time this game launched, or is going to launch, in this case December 10th, depending on when you're watching this video. So they're kind of pulling some sort of a Fallout 76 scenario. It kind of feels like it, at least. And I do expect that in a month or 2 from now the game is going to get better. So I'm definitely not trying to give you any false expectations from the game. Do look at the benchmarks yourself, and make sure that you have thoroughly understood it. Once again, this is an article from Tom's Hardware. Going to find it in the video description. And of course, the day one patch is going to come out once the game releases. And if I remember correctly, like I was saying, it should be anywhere between 40 to 50 gigabytes. I would expect something like 43 gigabytes, and I'm going to do my own review on my channel. And if you want to keep yourself up to date with the latest news in tech and gaming, do make sure that you're going to find all this information on my channel as well, because I happen to do quite a lot of things relating to, well, present a lot of news and give a lot of, well, sometimes commentary. I would say it's not, I don't always bring commentary to the videos that I make around here. Either way, they're all relating to technology, games, and graphics cards, believe it or not. So if you're finding my channel for the first time, do consider subscribing as well, and I'll presumably see you in the next video. Thanks a lot, you guys, for watching. This has been Alex for the Red Elk. Catch you in the next one. Bye.